establishing the forms with blocking techniques on the skull. What I need to look at is one of the most basic shapes here, which is going to be our sphere. So if I establish a light pencil line, which establishes the sphere part on the skull, it's definitely not it's kind of an odd shaped sphere. Now the next thing I want to do is, with the skull in this position, as I see it here, I want to have a line of symmetry. But the line of symmetry now is the line that's going down the curvature of the front of the face. So if I establish a light pencil line that comes down here, all right, coming from the top of the skull down, next thing I want to do is I want to look at the shape of the jaw. And okay, here's the bottom of the jaw. So here's the bottom of the jaw. And what's the shape of the bottom of the jaw? And where does it curve up? All right, again, these are all just light blocking lines. I next want to look at some of the true shapes, which in this case would be, where the eye is. And I can see this eye is kind of covered by this part of the nose right in here. So that shape right here. Now I want to look for this shape right there. So I'm just going to kind of rough that in lightly. I want to look at the shape of the bridge of the nose, all right, coming off of that. And then I want to look at the shape created by the nostrils, okay, the opening of the nose, and then that little shape there. Now I can start to look at some of the other edges of the jaw. Also, where I have the eye here, I've got the temple shape that curves around that leads to the jawline, or the cheekbone. And then the cheekbone thickness is here. I can see that the teeth coming from underneath the jaw is here. I also have a bottom edge of the chin right here. And then that kind of continues over and comes up along that line. So this line here is the bottom edge of that jaw. As I go through now, I've got the top, the bottom. I want to know where this line is, all right, this line that comes across the eyes. That's a great way for me to figure out where the eyes, the center of the eyes are going to need to be. And from there, I can just start going in with my contour lines, which I've already kind of have some of them in there, and start developing the contour drawing. So I can look closely at that separation here, that picks up those highlights. All right, this edge of the jaw, or the eye socket, kind of continues up and comes down along the top of the skull. There's some irregularities in the shape there. It comes underneath. Now I've got some contours in here that lead up to the cheekbone. And then I'm just going to build the contours. I've got a value that separates that temple and kind of comes across there. I can see those cracks. Got some of those little cracks in there. All right, lightly with pencil. Start to establish the rest of the contour lines and the shapes where those edges of separation are. Got that pure white highlight on the outer edge of the nose shape here, and I've got that secondary line right in there. This piece comes down here, and just keep tracing the contours. Now when you get to the teeth, what I suggest you do is, instead of drawing all the teeth as individual teeth, look at the area around the teeth. And I mentioned this before on the value study. These don't have a light source on them, so you're not going to have as much contrast. But as this line comes around, I've got these little notches that show a little bit more value. And then the bottom jaw comes from underneath the cheekbone, comes down here, and I'm going to draw those same lines around the teeth instead of drawing all the teeth like that. That picks up on this. Now what I can do is I can look at the values created by the areas in between the teeth to help better establish the shape of the teeth. I've got a couple sharper shapes right in there. Some of these are very subtle. And that gives me the basic contour drawing of the skull that later I can go back in and start to establish where the values are overall.